Now, it is one of the last taboos of the former East Germany, forced adoptions. There are widespread suspicions that babies were stolen from their parents by the communist government shortly after birth. Sometimes the alleged reasons were political, and others, the authorities were suspected of thinking the mothers were unable to properly raise their children, who were then given to families loyal to the regime. The people making these accusations have now created an association called East Germany's Stolen Children, and they're calling on an official investigation to allow access to archives and help parents find out what happened to their babies.
Katrin Hunholz was 17 years old when her daughter was born in this clinic in Leipzig. It was 1986, 3 years before the fall of the Berlin Wall. But things went wrong. The doctor said the baby was stillborn. Katrin never believed it. She's convinced her baby was stolen to be given to another family.
This is where they stole the children. And it's hard to think that the adoptive parents were probably waiting in front of the hospital to be given the child right after birth.
It all happened again with her second child in 1989. But then German reunification took place, and Katrin just buried her pain and tried to forget. It wasn't until 2016 that she started to hunt for information.
I looked in the cemeteries, but I couldn't find any trace of my children. I looked in the hospitals and at the city archives.
But the information she gathered is troubling. The official documents give different weights and lengths for the same stillborn child. Some documents appear to be fakes. Katrin Hunholz doesn't have indisputable proof of any babies being stolen, but she did discover in her research that hundreds of other parents are in the same situation.
I always thought that I was the only person to have lived through this. And then I found out on the internet that it had happened to lots of other parents. And it's always the same story. With them, I can talk about it and try to figure out how to deal with it.
Helping Katrin and all the other parents find their children is the job of Andreas Lacke. In 1984, Andreas tried to escape from East Germany with his pregnant wife and ended up in prison. Their son was born several months later and taken from them in the hospital to be given to a family loyal to the government. After the fall of the Berlin Wall, Andreas moved heaven and earth to find him.
I didn't have proof of the adoption, only a photo taken by my mother.
Andreas only found his son thanks to a TV show and decided to help other parents whose children were stolen by the regime.
These people are obsessed by the disappearance of their child. Many of them are destroyed and cannot work. Some are advanced in age and they just want to know what happened to their children, where they were brought up, where they are now. They think about it night and day.
Even today, a simple song can move Andreas close to tears. It was written for the parents who are victims of forced adoptions. Their fight for the truth is just starting. To this day, historians have barely begun to investigate this part of East German history. Christian Sachse is one of the rare ones to have taken an interest. He says these aren't isolated cases. The rate of adoption in East Germany was in fact particularly high.
I looked at the adoption papers from the 1980s, and what we find is that in West Germany there were around 10 adoptions for 100,000 people. In East Germany it was 20. So we can obviously ask, what kind of pressure or interests were hiding behind these adoptions?
Like Andreas Lacke, many victims are also convinced that there was an organized system behind the forced adoptions, and that their research is being blocked by former members of the communist regime still holding jobs in hospitals. The association is petitioning the local parliament and has convinced Petra Köpping, the social affairs minister of Saxony, to join their quest.
These families don't trust the state. It's understandable considering what they've gone through. So we really need an independent body to help these families to re-establish confidence and give them answers.
Bringing answers to these families will be real detective work. A lot of critical archive material disappeared or was misplaced after German reunification. But Katrin isn't losing hope, even though time is running out.